Uh, Good morning and a very warm welcome to all of you um, to yet another chapter of South Asia Water Dialogues. I hope I am audible to everybody. Yeah, okay, great. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for all of you who has joined us this morning. For some of us, it's very early, and I cannot be grateful to you enough that you have taken the time out today to join us. And especially thanks so much to our esteemed panelists who are joining us today for taking time out of their busy schedule. Um, well, South Asia Water Dialogues is a series of webinars promoting knowledge exchange amongst water professionals in the South Asian region, brought to you by South Asia Young Women in Water, SAYWiW. And today's webinar is in collaboration with the International Water Association Young Water Professionals Nepal chapter. My name is Meghna, and I'm the founder of the South Asia Young Women in Water, or SAYWiW. South Asia Young Women in Water is a dynamic network founded by passionate young women professionals from India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. Our mission is to bridge gaps in the water sector by fostering collaboration, knowledge exchange, and empowerment across South Asia. Through initiatives like the South Asia Water Dialogues, SAYWiW aims to create a strong, connected community that drives innovation and shared prosperity in water management while championing the voices of women and youth in the region. For those who are joining this series the very first time, I'd like to give a quick introduction to the series. As we all know that water scarcity is not just a regional issue, it has global implications, especially for a region like South Asia that has numerous transboundary water bodies, aquifers, and basins. By bringing together experts, thinkers, and young professionals for simple dialogue exchange, this webinar series aims to foster knowledge exchange and collaborative solutions. Through these sessions, SAYWiW is committed to highlighting the critical role that youth and women play in water management and decision-making processes. This initiative is a step towards a more inclusive and sustainable future for water security in South Asia. I'd now like to welcome Kaushal from IWA-YWP Nepal chapter to introduce himself, introduce the chapter, and commence this much awaited webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Meghna, for that lovely introduction to our webinar and even to IWA-YWP. I think this collaboration has been something that we have been wanting for a long time, and it's a pleasure to be here today. So to everyone, I'm Kaushal Chapagai. I'm the Networking and Growth Coordinator of IWA-YWP Nepal, specifically the academic section of the chapter. Talking about IWA-YWP Nepal, it's a young organization. It was established in 2022, and some of the founders are here, Sabita and Utsav, at least I know of. And there are a lot of people on the background who are now the advisory committee of this chapter. And it was developed with the mission of IWA to engage and empower the next generation of water leaders. So the goal of the chapter is to establish a platform to create opportunity for young Nepalese water professionals for efficient networking, knowledge exchange, and capacity building and collaboration among water professionals in Nepal. And in terms of the members, so we have about now 200 plus members built in this community. And in regard to different activities that we have carried out, we have been able to have several webinars and have also kind of developed newsletters, and we also plan to have different kind of capacity building workshops. So it would be like there are a lot of things that are coming in place. So I would ask, like, if you're, the participants here, that if they are interested and to be really involved in the chapter, then they can follow us in our web page or follow our Facebook and LinkedIn pages to get an update on what's happening with the IW, what Nepal chapter IWA is doing. With that, maybe let's head into today's webinar session. But before we kind of move in with the webinar, I want to have kind of like a little bit of engagement with the participants that we have here. And for that, let me quickly share my screen. Uh, mm, just a minute. Yes. All right. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So let me just ask our participants to, if they can quickly join at menti.com and use the code 28650045. Maybe we can also put it on the chat box. 45 for Menti. Sorry, I think what happened? All right. So and give a kind of like a thumbs up when you're in. All right, so we already have one participant joining in, maybe some more. I think we have about 32 participants here, so at least half of us would be good. So while our participants are joining, so the first questions that we want to ask is about the location that you're here joining us from. So, oh, all right. So we already have an answer. So we have national as well as international people joining us here. It's good to see that there are a lot of people joining from Nepal, from Sweden, even from Germany, Korea, and India, definitely, Australia. All right, good, good. I think majority of us are, sorry, majority of the people are from Nepal and India, and we also have international people from international around the globe joining us. So the next question is, what does urban water security mean to you? So it could be in one or two words. Just what comes to your mind when we talk about urban water security? All right, we have our answer. Prosperity, yes. Water scarcity, yes. Equality, definitely. Water treatment, safe access to water, adequate access, definitely. Climate adaptation, yes. The disasters. Affordability, yes. So I think this sets a very good stage for our panel discussion next. But before we move into that, and I would love to have this kind of like continue with the word cloud here. But before we kind of move forward with the panel discussion or introduction to the speakers, I want to give a little bit of background on the need to have this discussion on urban water security. So cities, they are the engine of growth, and they contribute to around 80% of global GDP, and by 2050, it is expected that about 60% of world population will be in urban areas. So with its intensive socioeconomic development and urbanization and its perks, cities are also prone to some or other form of water-related issues, and Nepalese urban areas are of no exception. So, for instance, Kathmandu's water demand has already outstripped supply by about 40%, and the reason being groundwater depletion, exploitation, and even lack of investment in water infrastructures. And similarly, like cities like Birganj, metropolitan city is facing acute water shortage due to high dependency on groundwater and insufficient rainfall. About 80% of our wastewater are directly dumped into river without any treatment. And in terms of urban context, so we only have about less than 50%, that is about 45% of urban population, that have access to safely managed sanitation. And to top of it all, with changing climate, extreme event like flood, drought have become more severe and frequent. So exacerbating and aggravating further these challenges that we already have. In fact, about 150 deaths that occurs every year due to flooding is kind of like a linked to the extreme events that we are facing. And all of these and mostly women and vulnerable and marginalized people are the ones that are the most affected by these kind of events. um, so on this webinar, we will discuss with our esteemed panelists that we have here on these different dimensions of urban water security, and what are the challenges and the practice from their vast experiences on what are some of the sustainable practice that we can do for ensuring our uh, urban areas are water secured. So on that note, let me first quickly introduce our um, speakers. So let me start with Dr. Manohara ma'am, Manohara Khadka. Sorry, can you see my screen? Yeah, sorry. All right. So let me just quickly fix this. Sorry for the technical issue. Yeah, so Dr. Manohara Khadkasi is the country representative at IWA Nepal with an specialization in water and natural resource management in the Himalayan region, including Nepal. She has over 30 years of experience in social science research, policy and institutional analysis, strategic planning, development, cooperation. She specifically focuses on participatory natural resource management, gender and social inclusion, water governance. She holds a PhD in development studies from the Institute of Social Studies of Erasmus University and a master's in natural resources and sustainable agriculture from the Norwegian University of Life Sciences. She has received the Nepal Vidya Bhushan A award from the government of Nepal. She has published over 50 peer-reviewed works and has reviewed over 70 journals. And she has delivered over 48 national and global sessions. So we are very, very honored here to have Dr. Manohara Khadka. Thank you very much, ma'am, for joining this webinar and helping us in this move forward with this cause of addressing the urban water security challenges. Next, in our panelist, we have Dr. Neera Shrestha Pradhan. She is the Senior Water and Adaptation Specialist and coordinates a program on managing cryosphere and water risk at ICIMOD. And she also brings more than 20 years of experience as a program manager and subject specialist in the field of disaster risk resilience, river basin management, community-based adaptation, environmental management, and freshwater conservation and management. She has worked with various organizations like IUC in Asia, IUC in Nepal, the WWF Nepal, and ICIMOD. She is a civil engineer with a master's degree in environmental management and PhD in climate change. And she has also published several scientific peer-reviewed papers, journal articles, book chapter, and she's also a lead author of a chapter on disaster risk reduction and building resilience of the Hindu Kush Himalaya assessment. So it is an honor to have you here with us in this panel session, Dr. Neera Shrestha ma'am. I welcome you as well. And next we have on our panelist, Dr. Anushya Shrestha. She is the research director at South Asia Institute of Advanced Studies. She holds a PhD in social science from Wageningen University and Research in the Netherlands, and a master's in environmental science from Tribhuvan University. She also has a decade of research experiences, exploring various aspects of water security issues in the context of evolving rural and urban dynamics and changing climate. She is also leading the project ASHA, which is addressing the issue of climate change through strengthened literacy, hands-on knowledge and awareness. We are funded by the UNESCO, TWAS, and Elsevier Foundation. She has contributed to many research projects funded by international research organizations such as IDRC, NWO, ESRC, UK, GCRF, by covering different themes on like water security, climate change adaptation, urban disaster management, and women economic empowerment. She has also authored many peer-reviewed journal articles, book chapter, policy brief, blogs, and opinion pieces. So it is an honor to have you here as well, Dr. Anushya Shrestha. So with that, I think before we kind of dive into the panel discussion, maybe have a quick group photo, if that's okay. So I request maybe Utsav, is it okay if you could kind of take a, all right, perfect.
Okay, I will take one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Utsav, for this. So now, without any delay, let's kind of head into the panel discussion. So we have already kind of, from the response that we got from our participants, that water security and its challenges are multidimensional. It's not only water scarcity or treatment. So there are multiple issues that needs to be addressed when it comes to water security. So my question goes first to Dr. Anushya Shrestha. On the front face is always water scarcity. So in terms of Nepal's context, with almost about 80% of wastewater that is generated by household dumped to river, what importance do springs such as Dhungedara and their revival hold for mitigating the water scarcities, especially in the context of growing dependence on groundwater? So
Namaste. Hello, everyone. Am I audible?
yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction and thank you for this opportunity. And I think in this question, you have rightly highlighted in a very important aspect, the interconnection between surface water sources and groundwater sources and how water quality and water quantity are interconnected. So very important aspect. And when we think of surface water pollution and increasing dependency, I get connected to my research site, particularly Hanumanti, which is a tributary of Bagmati River, the major water system in Kathmandu Valley, and best water irrigation is a common practice there. So how this emerged, it emerged as an alternative to deal with loss of access to traditional irrigation system. But this has emerged as an alternative and partly helped them to access water, continue cropping. But this comes at cost. It kills their crops. So, but that is not limited there. The impacts that this contaminates water sources, they have been dealing with seepage of sewer into their land and wells. And so additionally, farmers used to share me that they use the watercolor of Hanuman. They change this 7 times a day. So it is not just house water, household sewage or waste that is polluting our water sources, but it is much beyond that. So the problem of water pollution is very severe and very closely connected to water security, but because it reduces the volume of water, usable water in terms of quantity as well. So these are very interconnected. And in terms of conservation of spring sources or Dunge Dharas, these are extremely important sources. And Dunge Dharas, in addition to being our tangible heritage, these have been traditional water sources and still continue to be the major water source, particularly for the urban poor. So this cannot be ignored and certainly need to be conserved. And if we connect it to our water surface or groundwater sources, these are intermediate subsurface flowing groundwater in connection to groundwater. So it is very important, no doubt, about conserving these and increasingly in the context of increasing groundwater dependencies in urban areas like Kathmandu Valley and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anushya ma'am, for that kind of, local context on, the issues of wastewaters and the irrigation system and the challenges that farmers are facing in terms of water pollution. And as you have rightly said that while they are very interconnected in the sense that these water pollutions that we having is already kind of, amplifying the scarcity that we are facing in terms of the water that is available for drinking and other human purpose. So now I want to flip on to the another side of the water challenges, that is on excessive water or to kind of make it more precise on floods that we are having. So my question is directed to Dr. Neera Shrestha Pradhan. So every year Kathmandu, Biratnagar and other urban cities of Nepal, they face the challenge of flooding. In fact, this monsoon, Kathmandu even received excessive rainfall of 120 mm within a 12-hour period. So and I think it's the same when it comes to other urban areas as well. So is climate change the only reason to blame, or are there other systemic water management issues as well?
Thank you very much, Kaushal, for the question. Obviously, as you can see, nowadays we are facing this urban flooding, which is not so abnormal. But this year we faced quite a lot, So, but your question goes like, is climate change to be blamed? I will not say that 100% climate change is to be blamed. Yes, climate change will certainly intensify this problem, But because of, as you see already in Kathmandu, we are facing this intense rainfall. So when it rains, it is very intense, and this flooding happens. But the other thing is also what we are facing is the monsoon variability. That means we have erratic rainfall. So it is not in a pattern that is happening before. Yes, this is because of climate change. But it is not only a thing that needs to be, that is the trigger of the urban flood that we are facing. Nowadays, if you look at, especially the urbanization because of population growth, yes. And in urban areas, you can already see that a lot of housing is being developed and the roads are being paved, the greeneries, the gardens that we have to have earlier when we were young, now it is all paved because people think that it is easy to clean, let's pave it, it's easy, let's blacktop all the roads. It's easy to clean, but then what we are doing is we are then barring the percolation of water that comes, That means the recharge, we are reducing the recharge that goes down, and the groundwater, the groundwater availability, the groundwater table, we are impacting that. So that is something that we are concretizing our cities. That is one of the major problems because of the infrastructure that we are building, because of concretizing all the, the infrastructure, road and other things, and making the greenery less. So that is another problem that we are facing. But together with that, if we look at the land use change and the environmental degradation that we are facing, that is also one of the major problems to have this urban floods in our area. Deforestation, we can see, like a lot of trees being cut. And when we were small in Kathmandu itself, we used to see a lot of pokharis, like wetlands, ponds that used to, again, get the water when it is raining, that recharge the water and absorb the water, because wetlands also work as sponge, which absorb the water and recharge our groundwater. So these, we are all concretizing it, and like in the name of urbanization, we are reducing it, degrading our environment and the land use. So that is also one of the problems. Look at not only Kathmandu, look at Pokhara. Because of the groundwater extraction, it has become very vulnerable nowadays. So again, over extraction of groundwater, because we don't get enough water to drink, enough water for our daily livelihood, we extract water without refilling, recharging the water resources. So that's another problem. Again, we don't manage our watershed. Again, Anushaji talked about springs. When we talk springs, we at EC Mode, we have now started talking about the spring sheds, because, it's not only the spring that brings the water, but if you don't conserve the spring shed, then again, we are degrading. And also besides that, the policies that we have, I don't say that we don't have any water management policies. We have integrated water resource management policies, basin management policies, we have watershed management policies, but the implementation of it is a challenge, So it's not that we don't have policies, we do have, but how do we make it implementable? That is where we need to focus on. So climate change, yes, it is intensifying the problem, but there are many other human and anthropogenic activities that are also impacting and causing the urban flooding that we see these days. And we have been facing that nowadays. It's nothing new, we have been facing it. So that's, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Neera ma'am, for highlighting, the hard approach as well as the soft approach that is needed for kind of, when you talked about, greening the cities and the pokharis and wetlands that Kathmandu used to have. I think that very much verify the fact that we need more space, like make space for water in order to kind of combat with the extreme events that we are facing. And also it's not only about climate change, but a lot of from land use change, our economic activities that we're doing, the groundwater that we're exploiting, environmental degradation, as well as the governance aspect of it, implementing the right kind of policies, and for kind of combating with these kind of extreme events. So thank you very much for highlighting that. Now I want to kind of highlight on one of the most often overlooked aspect, when it comes to these extreme events or scarcity or whatever is the water challenges that we face. The vulnerable and marginalized groups such as informal settlers, women, and indigenous communities are the one they are most affected by it. So my question is to Dr. Manohara Khadka, how can urban water governance framework be restructured to better include the voices of such marginalized group, to kind of improve our overall water management challenges?
Thank you so much, Kusalji. Hello, everyone. A very good morning. And first of all, thank you so much for giving this space. Also, very much privileged to talk to you all. Also, share my experience. I think framework, governance framework. When you talk about the water governance framework for urban water security, we really need to think of why the current governance framework is very much not able to tackle the issue, right? So if you looked at the governance challenges, major 3 challenges I see, and then it helps also to relate to the issue. First is that whatever the plan, program we do, design or policy we do, focus on the addressing challenge of urban water security. From the people side of it, is always marginalized. Like, there is a very much systemic barrier. 3 barriers really impact the governance of water security in urban area. First is there is a huge gap in terms of understanding water management. You very much get that in Mentimeter. What does it come to water security talk? It comes as a dignity, right? Equality, justice, equity. And then add this perspective. Everyone know these are very key, but are we enough to discuss this issue during the water planning process or disaster risk management planning process linked to the water security or urban or not? Based on my experience, there is a huge gap because there is very much technical discipline, understanding water management, water issue from physical perspective, and biophysical engineering lenses very much dominate in understanding. This is one of the issue of making governance very much inclusive, right? So why this is, as I said, gender social inclusion issue is very much less recognized, although there is talk, but how much this issue get space in discussion of water issue or urban water issue is one challenge, because larger perspective of the discussion around governance is dominated by technical lenses. This is one. Another is that because who are the people in the governance, right? Who decide, who sit in the table? If you look at one of the missing point is the stakeholder inclusiveness, the diversity. It's really governance is all about relationship, understanding relationship between the public, private sector, community, people representative, even research or think tanking, right? So what I observed in my research also, I found that huge opportunity also to bring our policy processes, policy dialogue, so that everyone, multi-actor that are around, responsible and also accountable for water security in the not only the urban context, same with the rural context, but we need to bring start with the process of discussion, policy discussion, be it implemented discussion from a multi-stakeholder perspective. So multi-stakeholder dialogue is very key for governance, water governance, because if we don't consider who are the people sitting in discussion table, right? We need to think, are there representative women? Are there representative indigenous community? Are there representative young people? Are there representative scientists who bring the very critical science-based discussion input, right? So second part of this is the actor dynamics in the policy discussion and also policy design, even for discussion around the governance improvement. So the second point is that. Third point is that policy, when certain situation comes in the policy framing design, and there also even we discuss some sort of clue and keep aspect of social aspect of water management or multidisciplinary interdisciplinary aspect of policy, sometimes it also do not get enough recognized at the end. It's because of barrier with the understanding of language barrier is huge gap. I have analyzed one policy, like why policy is not there, why policy is missing. For example, water resources policy 2022 in Nepal. You can see hardly the lenses of people and inclusion, gender. So I think that this kind of discussion may not be enough because the process was not enough is one thing. Another is who do we invite is matter. So there should be also inclusion in a representation, I said, and also knowledge barrier is there because the way you run, this is also part of governance. So governance framework should consider whose knowledge is counted, and mostly the discussion happen in sometimes in English and also mostly English, and then also larger Nepali. But our urban, we have a very much cultural diversity, language diversity, 120 social group in Nepal. If you look at the Madhya province, there is also Maithili language. Are we enough also to discuss the water management or water security challenge in that lens or not? This is also third point. A fourth point is that like the governance, as I said, again, the framing with this, the partnerships comes in, like a role of here, we can discuss later on, but whenever we have a representative or discussion, the voices and analysis of the multi-stakeholder is there, we need it. But what is the lesson learned? We need to develop one mechanism where the impact of policy is assessed through the interdisciplinary lens. So how much certain policies really, Dr. Neera already highlighted, we have a policy that is implemented gap, but in the gap analysis also we need to look at how has this policy impacted on the bringing water security element and also equity and justice issue of the water access and benefit sharing. So here again, when it comes to the who do you work with, we should be also promoting multi-stakeholder partnership, bringing resource for development organization, bringing private sector, bringing young people's network, and also policymaker or government. So yeah, there are 4 points.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I think these are personally, I feel like I agree to lots of the point that you discussed here, and these are often the very less discussed points in most of the kind of events around the globe. I mean, it has kind of it's good to see that it has taken up some momentum and has recently come into light. But yeah, I agree with a lot of points that you made on biophysical engineering aspect are the most that are dominates when it comes to water management aspect and policy framing in terms of multidisciplinary aspects, and also when you talked about terminologies and language barriers, so these are very, very important. And in fact, the social issues are very, very existent to none, very, very less existent in when it comes to any document that we read. And also, I very much like the last point that you mentioned on developing a mechanism to assess the impact of these policies. What are the lessons learned? I mean, we have different policies, but are they really bringing in impact, and how do we assess this? I mean, it's a very qualitative, or it's a very complex kind of issue, but I think some measurable form of it would really help us to move forward when it comes to managing our water resources. So thank you very much for that. So maybe we now move into another session of this title, as we have is on challenges. I think we have discussed well on challenges. Maybe move on to opportunities now. So I want to talk with Dr. Anushya on this question that you are from the South Asia Institute of Advanced Studies, and you have carried out prominent research work in the urban water security field. So being from such a reputed, high quality research and academic organization, what role does research and development play when it comes to, providing innovative solutions to improve water security in cities?
Thank you once again. Well, when we start thinking of innovative solution, innovative in one area, innovative in one issue will not be a blueprint from some other area or some other issue. So it has to be very contextual. That it starts with the value of research, understanding the issue, in-depth understanding of the issue, its impact, social, environmental, economic policy, as both the Dr. Neera and Dr. Manohara have highlighted. Where are the gaps? There are many gaps, many areas, including JC, soil conservation, and even I think this cross coordination across sectors and across scales, which are very important to bring these policies into implementation. So in addition to that, the importance of research comes into highlighting the gaps, where are the issues, and these will be informing policies and development practice. So these are interconnected, iterative processes rather than discrete activities. So there is always there's interconnection and value. And at CIAS, we follow this. We are following this approach of research, policy-oriented research in practice. So we also have a practice what we call Pani Chautari Water Forum. It's a kind of policy lab where we bring different stakeholders together to discuss on the research-based issues, so as to learn from each other's perspective. As Dr. Manohara rightly pointed out, the communication is extremely important. The communication means understanding others' perspective, and it's not just technical aspects, but also the experiential knowledge and traditional knowledge and their perspectives. This need to come into dialogue. So from then on, then exploring solutions collectively, what can be implemented, how can that be implemented, and how can that be turned into policies so as to make it sustainable and continued. So this has been our approach, and it has actually helped. We work closely with local government, and in some cases, this has helped us to bring to resolve, or at least manage some issues like upstream, downstream issues around spring sharing of springs between urban and rural areas, which has been increasing the major urban approach to urban water security. So besides that, there are also cases or even around one house, one tap policy, which has been largely endorsed and being implemented by local governments, where there were polarized views between what is the problem and what are the solutions. So these kind of spaces, that's where research and resource-based dialogues so as to seek policy and practice-based, action-based solution is extremely important, and that is where we try to engage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I mean, it's very interesting. I fully agree that when it comes to research, it's an iterative process. Definitely, yeah, we have to go back and forth, and it's very challenging when it comes to identifying this research gap, and that is challenging, equally rewarding in terms of that innovation comes out of it. And it's good to know about some of the initiatives by SIAS and the work they are doing in terms of policy oriented research and practice oriented, bridging the gap between science and practice and society. And good to know about the one house one tap initiatives that has been carried out. So it's in terms of, like, there are a lot of opportunities there when it comes to water resource management from a research aspect or lens as well. So moving to my question is to you is, with over 20 years of professional experience and contribution in the field of disaster, what are your conclusions that you have drawn, and some of the ongoing initiatives of ICIMOD to solve the water security challenge, particularly in terms of flood and droughts in urban areas of the Hindu Kush Himalaya region?
Thank you very much for the question. The first thing that I would like to mention here is we all should understand that the climate change is real, it's happening, and we cannot wait. Action needs to happen now, And also, if you look at the WMO report that came out in 2023, late 2023, they said that, within 5 years, we are going to breach this Paris Agreement of 1.5 degree. And we have already seen that, at spikes, we have already broken that to 1.5 degree. But that means it is real. We cannot wait, So that is the clear message that I would like to mention here, And how do we tackle it, That is something that needs to be done in a very much integrated manner, and in a multi-pronged manner, because as Dr. Anushya also mentioned, there is no one solution to it, So we have to bring the multi-dimension of the integrated approach. For example, we can say that, okay, we'll do the climate science, but together with climate science, it is also important to look at the traditional knowledge, the indigenous knowledge that is happening. We cannot forget that. If we forget, then again, what we discussed earlier, what about the traditional taps that we had, Dhungedharas that we have? It's all vanishing from our region, So, but these things needs to be done. Of course, when we talk about climate science, we do the modeling, we do the forecasting. It is important to see like how we look at the future scenarios and we prepare ourselves. But on the other hand, we should also think about this traditional knowledge. How do we synergize that? How do we bring the interface between that is very important. But not only that, there are, when you talk about, again, science, there are different innovative tools that we use. Nowadays, people start talking about, and it's everywhere. We talk about the AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, even robotics. And those are the tools that can overshadow the traditional methods of early warnings, or coming out with drought warnings. But that also needs to be taken into consideration, whereas these innovative methods, AI, machine learnings, can bring, like large-scale assessments, but also the traditional low-cost systems, early warnings can help communities save their lives and livelihood in case, because it also gives real-time information. So again, there needs to be an interface between the high-tech and the low-cost technologies so that we can get enough time, enough lead time for preparedness, especially when we are talking about floods. Now, talking about preparedness, especially ICIMOD has done a lot of work on early warning systems, especially in the watersheds and river basins. If you look at the Ratu watershed, if you look at not only in Nepal, but also in India or Pakistan or Afghanistan, or we have now gone to Africa also. In those regions, we have done a lot of early warning, but that is not at the urban area, But looking at the flood situation here in Kathmandu that we faced recently, maybe an early warning is required here also, so that we are giving prior information to the communities, vulnerable communities, so that they can prepare themselves. So preparedness is the key to our, saving lives and livelihood. So when we say preparedness, it's also telling the people, vulnerable communities, about prior information about the flood that is upcoming, but also making them aware, preparing them to save their lives and how to act when the flood comes, So all these things are also important: awareness raising, capacity building of the communities, helping them to prepare, the go bags and other important things that is required. Because you've seen here, even in the flood, if you don't get the early information, then all our important documents that is required for us, the water, or some food items, we don't have anything. So that makes them more vulnerable. So again, I would like to emphasize is while, we have seen in our region, in the government plan, you see that a lot of funding goes to post-disaster activities, But pre-disaster or preparedness is also equally important, which is not there in our plans. So that's one of the things that we are advocating in the Madhya Pradesh is that it's very important that we save some money, we get some climate financing for preparedness also. So that, we also say action speaks louder. So that's why we have to have this action prepared, before not only thinking about the post-disaster activities, but also preparedness is very important. And ICIMOD also provides a platform where we share and learn, the science, evidence-based knowledge, and we bring experts not only from the region, but also outside the region to learn about different aspects. And the last thing that I would like to mention here is ICIMOD is also moving towards a lot of nature-based solutions, not only in DRR, but also other aspects, also infrastructure. About disasters, we are talking about how do we green the city, again, coming back to the same thing. How do we do the rainwater harvesting? Earlier also we used to do it, in between we did not, but how do we do the rainwater harvesting? Not only from rooftop, but also groundwater recharging is also equally important. How do you do the revival of spring sheds and springs, The watershed management that we used to do earlier, it's also something that we need to work. And as Dr. Anusha also mentioned, upstream, downstream linkages, how we are working with the communities for the upstream, downstream linkages. So these are also some of the interventions that we are working on at ICIMOD that will help, not only the urban sector water security, but also the rural sector also, and especially in the river basins also. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I think that was very insightful in terms of, you have addressed on, innovative tools and also, the AI machine learning, which have been going on, and definitely we have seen a lot of examples of these tools in use for, robustifying the early warning system. And you rightly said that, there needs to be an interface between both high tech as well as low tech when it comes to responses to these disasters, and even the system, so that our communities are safe. And not only about the responses, but also on the preparedness aspect, building capacity, awareness, and the action based. And it is good to hear about a lot of ICIMOD initiatives that have been carried out in this spectrum. And also, you mentioned, I really liked about the fact that ICIMOD is working on looking into nature-based solutions, rainwater harvesting. I feel like groundwater recharge, spring side management. Yeah, I think these are very, very much in need. And I think these also will reflect on the integrative management of our watershed, as well as the whole water resource system as a whole. So I think it promotes system thinking. So yeah, thank you very much, ma'am, for bringing out these interesting initiatives and innovations that have been there, and the practices that have been carried out at ICIMOD. My question is very similar and directed to now to Dr. Manohara, ma'am. So you have a vast experience and contribution when it comes to natural resource management and gender equality and social inclusion, right? And there is also an initiative of transformative future for water security. So could you elaborate, how this connects, and what the mission is about, its vision and outcome?
Thank you, Kushalji. Yeah, IMI, as you know, IMI is a research for development organization, and we are doing like a similar pace colleague are mentioning earlier, previous speaker. We are very much focused on how to make water secure given the scenario of climate change or the socioeconomic driver. What is very clear is that whatever we do in water resource management, research, innovation, the science, and also research-based policy and practice, there is very clear that the way we do science, the way we do policy, the way we do technological innovation are not very much transformative, right? These are very business as usual. Business as usual, what I mean is that we've looked at very narrow perspective of engineering or biophysical resources or gendered understanding. Gender is all about bringing women in, collecting water in the household or community. This is also very much not very transformative perspective, for example. So there is a urgent need is there to make transformation in the water system, but through the science, knowledge, innovation. Whole idea of transformative future for water security is then one mechanism, collective action to catalyze the changes in a policy, policy in water sector policy, for example, water management policy, for example, also investment. It itself is also science and implemented, policy, investment, science, implemented practice to transform in a way to respond the challenge that water is facing given the scenario of crisis of climate and other driver like socioeconomic driver, for example, rapid urbanization happening, and there is a very much secured water security, like access also not equitable. In that context, we just, it is not an EMI, but we come together with we bring a stakeholder, 8 stakeholder group, and that includes also policymaker, practitioner, local government, civil society, and then youth, and also investor and development investor or development partner, for example. What we do it is that we discuss what the emerging challenge around the water security in the context of this crisis that global is facing, including Nepal. And then in that context, IMI role was just facilitating the dialogue, but we bring, as I said, 8 different stakeholder group. We started with the country level, region level analysis, bringing together, understand where we are in terms of water security, water management, what barrier, what challenge, what opportunity. So we just facilitated 1.5 year time duration, starting from country region, and then 8 region. We did virtual consultation with all stakeholder group, and because stakeholder is the one who understand the challenge, who had role to play also to address the challenge that around water security. So in that context, that process took 1.5 year, and then 8 regional consultation, bringing around. It was online, and physical meeting was also there in Nepal consultation. So we started in 2022. In 2023, we come up through this online and virtual, and also final workshop in Cape Town the 8 broad mission, high level ambitious mission for water security. It has 8 ambition. It means that, how to build the resilience of farmer to climate change and water risks come by different drivers. For example, how to deliver sustainable stakeholder driven water services. Third was increase freshwater availability. Fourth was how to make water infrastructure future ready to cope with all the risks, come up with the water risks, disaster, flood, and also infrastructure are not in a safe. And fifth was how to overcome the data information, which is also not inclusive, not not really targeted to larger audience or stakeholder or policymaker or practitioner. How to make water decisions really fit for the future, and then seventh was how to deliver good water governance and transboundary cooperation, and final was how to adapt the future water regime and risks. So anyway, this very high ambition, the mission came with a very much consultation of more than 1,000 stakeholders representing 400 organizations. So this process was what I wanted to mention. This mission now come up with a whole process, bottom-up process led by young people. Its whole process was led by young people in the dialogue, because process was very much informal, participatory. There is no hierarchy, It's very participatory process, come up with this agenda. We call it very high ambitious agenda for future security. Now, coming back to through the local to global consultation, we have now agenda. What we are trying to do in each region, like for example, IMI has a new strategy. We have also a role to play that how this agenda can be implemented. So our new strategy also considers some of the finding or mission that collective action through the multi-stakeholder approach came up. So we are trying to address through our new strategy. We are trying to address, the one of the focus is our new strategy is mitigating water risks in the context of climate change and other changes. And second is the how to reduce the inequality in water access, decision making, benefit sharing. Third is, how to manage water sustainably so that water is there for nature and also people and also future. So, and then we have identified the very much transformative lever, where the gender equity inclusion in one lever, water governance is the second lever. Third is digital innovation, data, how to make data accessible for different people and user. Fourth is more about the investment. We don't do invest, but through our scientific experiences and knowledge and innovation, we support investor to invest in a water security intervention that do not create further inequality, and also that is also very much responding to the changes that nature of environment is coming. So whole transformative future water security is young. We have also working. We have a young people in the network. Now lot of discussion going on in country level also. Stakeholders are also very much taking up this the how we can country specific implementation plan can be done to prepare to implement the mission that is really relevant for Nepal. Not all mission is relevant for Nepal. Through the consultation, Nepal has identified 3 strategic, mission that relevant to Nepal. So it is a process of shaping long-term vision for water security agenda that is also inclusive and equitable. Yeah.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I think that was such a insightful information for me, and I think definitely for our participants here as well. So it's really amazing to hear about this transformative future for water security initiative and how it was a bottom-up process. And I love the 8 broad missions of it. When it comes to resilience and sustainable WAS. And making future ready infrastructure, and from data to information as well as transboundaries issues. I think it's very amazing about the work that has been going on in this spectrum, and coming up with this agenda and strategies for mitigating water risk, reducing water inequality, and water for nature, people, and for future. So I think it's very insightful and very amazing work and I truly feel that this will definitely be a transformative, that you will achieve that vision of transformative future for water security. So I think we are a little bit delay with our time. So without any delay, I want to quickly go to our Q&A session from participants. We do have few questions here. I am actually checking them now. But anyway, so I see one question here to Dr. Neera on there has been considerable I think this question is from Meghna. Yeah, so there has been like considerable discussion around early warning system, especially in the aftermath of Wayanad landslides. So my question is specific to Hindu Kush Himalaya region. Do you believe that transparent data sharing is currently happening in the region? If not, how sufficient is the existing data sharing, and in the absence of comprehensive data transparency, how can early warning system or preparedness measures still be effective in mitigating the impact of such disasters?
Shall I take the question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you so much. Actually, I replied on the chat box also, but quickly, Meghaji, I think that's a very, very, very pertinent question. And everywhere when you talk about early warning, that the data sharing and the data issue comes, So this has always been a challenge. And I think in the longer run also, it will be a challenge because and it's not only in the Hindu Kush Himalaya region, it's everywhere that data sharing is always a challenge because of its different, very sensitive issues also. However, having said that, we have been able to provide early warnings because of there are various aspects of it, The first thing is we can use remote sensing and satellite database also to generate early warnings. And these are some of the tools that I'm telling you is what EC Mode is already working on, and we are providing early warnings through that. So that is one thing. The other thing is also looking at, look at the modeling, take the historical trends and come out with the future forecasting. Again, that is also something that can help us to provide early warnings. Wherever we have database, that is, wherever we have data, we can do that. But the other thing is, which works well at the community is also the community-based early warning systems. And where this is not only from in-country, upstream, downstream, but at EC Mode, we have also been able to very successfully implement this in cross-border countries like from Nepal to India, and it has been successfully implemented. So there are different and in this, especially in the community-based, it's the communities generating the information and sending it to the downstream communities. And these are very low-cost technologies, which is providing almost real-time information. And that has helped a lot, though it is in a very small area. We have not done in a larger river basins. We have done it in tributaries only. But if we can have it, a network of these type of early warnings, then it will certainly help the communities. And towards the end, it is whatever we generate, the data information is for the communities who are more vulnerable. And this has been, we have been able to successfully, implement this early warning systems on the ground. But yes, the one thing is true is data has always been a challenge. And what we have learned from our 40 years of experience is that we don't have to always wait for the data to come, And the communities who are vulnerable does not need to see like how much of water level goes up and how much goes down. For them, it's to get the information telling them that water level is going up, just be prepared. Or, like now the flood is coming, you run for your life, and how they are prepared themselves. So that is more important if you look at, how we save lives and livelihood on the ground. Yeah, thank you. And more, if we want to discuss more, we can certainly discuss bilaterally later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Neera. I think that definitely addresses the question. So I see another question from Sabita, who is the chair, who is the vice chair of IWA-YWP. So her question is open to any panelist, but maybe I direct it to Anushya, ma'am. How can local or all level of government mainstream and incorporate traditional and indigenous knowledge such as Newari practices for urban water security in Kathmandu?
Thank you. Well, very important point. Newari water management system or traditional water management system, particularly here, we have taken Newari practices as a reference, has been extremely strong, insightful, but over time, these have been largely vanishing. I again come back to the irrigation system, which until 2019, the farmers, a group of farmers were managing that system. But very recently, local government, by constructing roads, encroached upon these systems. So it's the problem is the government also needs to recognize the value of these systems and how the disaster, as Dr. Nida rightly pointed, how disasters that we are frequently seeing in Kathmandu Valley is connected to these ignored systems. So this is largely missing, but having said that, there are also some positive signs. For example, Lalitpur municipality, it is working together, working with stakeholders and with the community to revive canals and also restore traditional ponds. There is also an example from Madhepur municipality where local communities and the local government worked together and revived a pond which was encroached upon by land mafia. So that has been successfully restored. So, and even they are investing quite well in traditional water systems, reviving these Tunge Dharas and all those are going on. But the problem here is these are being largely piecemeal rather than integrated, as I think both Dr. Pradhan and Dr. Khatka rightly pointed out. Where are the gaps? Because these cannot be piecemeal, because otherwise, until and unless these are comprehensive, integrated, and coordinated across sectors, across scales, so there are doubts of uncertainties about how are these going to be sustainable. So it is very important, not just, and to what extent can this be done just by local governments? Because the systems, the damage has not been done recent or not just by one level. So these are very complex problem, and different stakeholders, including non-governmental actors, need to come together and work on to bringing and restoring and or conserving our water systems. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anushya. I think that very much rightly addresses the question of Sabita. So we have another question from Indrajit Uday Kumara. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, but I direct this question to Dr. Manohara. I mean, we have talked a lot about initiative, but his question is, how is Kathmandu planning to finance the necessary upgrade to its water management initiative, upgrade of water infrastructure? Are there any innovative financing mechanism being explored to support sustainable water security effort and initiatives? I think this very much links to what we talked about, the transformative.
Private sector. Okay.
Yeah, so maybe ma'am, you could.
I tried.
Yeah.
There is also one question by Prakash ji
Yes.
to address this discussion. So
Perfect. Yes, sure, ma'am.
there is another question also. He requested me to discuss.
Okay, sure,
So
ma'am.
yeah, I think the financing, definitely public-private sector partnership process approach is very much needed. I think in Nepal, compared to other countries, I'm not sure, like even, the business model approach could be very much best model where the even user, private sector who provide the services or install the water infrastructure or supply, different
Yes.
service provider and also user, and mechanism should be, because if some private sector invest, provide financing, and sustainability comes in, right? So whole issue of sustainability of water supply infrastructure is very big issues globally and here also, and how to make sure that the supply system function after the project end. So in that context, co-design of any investment on the water infrastructure supply program is very much needed. So during the co-design process, there should be, again, as I said, multi-stakeholder, right? The people, representative, government, investor, really have a discussion about the issue, design. From the design stage, there should be a consultation, also ownership. So that could be a mechanism, but this mechanism takes time. This also takes resources, but how much we are very much able to invest extra resources when you make a, think of any project that is very much inclusive of discussion, design, implementation, and monitoring. So this is the one aspect. I think another aspect, Prakash Dhangadia, Prakashji has written to me that, hi madam, my concern is about very interesting concern. He has household level water connection. Household level connection has reduced the opportunity to be gathered in community tab around and discuss shared issue of violence of each household, and even the woman member have lost opportunity to discuss without hesitation. In this sense, household connection has gone against the social norm and harmony. I think we need to discuss, there's no wrong and right or wrong answer, right? For this, definitely household connection, pipe water supply system definitely has impacted on to reduce the drudgery of the collector of water for domestic usage, right? So in Nepal case, 80% of more than 80% of water collector are women and girls. And if household water supply is sustainable and very much equitable, that is also benefit. At the same time, what Prakashji is saying that because in our system, when there is a swing and also spout, and Dunge Dara, for example, people gather, talk, interact, this is also process of social interaction. Maybe you are right that there has not been research on this issue. No, we have to do really scientific evidences of how this two different model is bringing change, positive change or transformative change. Also, without the disempowering the community that are also would like to be sharing and learning from each other. So it doesn't mean that having a pipeline connection would reduce the social system, social harmony, because there is another method could be, for example, if there is a pipe water supply, for example, operation maintenance, community practice of operation maintenance, bringing women, men, together and discuss like a chautari, dialogue. Dialogue process also can bring, even if water is supplied through the pipe system, there could be other mechanism where the people come together, share their challenges, issues, and also learning. So there could be a different method, but it is an area of also new inquiry.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for addressing that question. I think we are very much delayed by 15 minutes now. So I stop the Q&A session here now and directly go to our the end of the webinar. First and foremost, I would like to thank our panelists, Dr. Neera Shrestha Pradhan ma'am, Manohara ma'am, Anushya ma'am, for kindly being joining us, agreeing to this webinar so easily. And then, despite the busy schedule, I think Neera ma'am has a flight now. She has managed to stay with us until the end. So thank you very much. We are very, very grateful for your time and consideration for this webinar. Next, I move to thank Meghna from SAYWiW and the entire SAYWiW team for handling this logistic, for coordinating with us in terms of creating this webinar, bringing posters, and coordinating with us in and addressing all of our issues as well. It has been such a learning process, and I hope that we collaborate further in the future as well. And I have to not to forget our Roshan Paudelji from IWA-YWP Nepal. He was the primary person who brought our panelists on board. So thank you very much, Roshanji, as well. And to rest of my IWA-YWP members, steering committee members, they are here. They have been listening to this webinar as well. Thank you very much. You all have been instrumental in making this a success. And not to mention our young professionals who have been joining with us, Sabi and Sarina, who have kind of brought on these individual posters. So thank you very much for all your effort. And lastly, to our participants who have been with us until the end and listening to us and engaging with us, and also for your insightful questions. And if there are any other questions that you feel are not being addressed, then you can feel free to connect us, feel free to connect to CB, to IWA-YWP, and reach out to our panelists or to our to any of us. So with that, before we end the webinar, maybe Meghna, you want to share the video for our next chapter on Kabul, Afghanistan. And Neera ma'am, thank you very much for kindly being here. So you may leave if for your flight if it's too late for you. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. I would like to take leave now.
Yeah,
And thank
sure,
you for
ma'am.
this very insightful and interesting discussion. Thank you all. Bye-bye from my side.
Thank you, Nilan. Thank you. So we conclude, right? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Maybe Lee? Thank
Yeah,
you once
sure,
again.
sure. No problem. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think we just have a video for our next chapter of this webinar series.
Thank you so much, everybody. And we hope to see you for our chapter 3, which is going to be on Kabul, Afghanistan. And 2 of our panelists will be joining us from Afghanistan. And we are so thrilled to see that this series is going to be such a success. But we would want all of you to stay with us, because this is a regional series and we are not just talking about countries. And I'm sure all of us could find lessons to learn from each other. I definitely was very happy to learn about our transboundary relationships, and let's continue exploring more. And so we are having one session every alternate Tuesday. You can keep in touch with us over LinkedIn. And we also have a mention in the chat, our WhatsApp group. We keep updating all our participants about the upcoming webinars. So stay in touch, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Namaste.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Kusalji.
Thank you.
Roshni.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mhm. Thank you, Anisha, ma'am.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you so much. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.